So have you ever held a gemstone and wondered why its beauty captivates you the way it does, why it just grabs the human heart? And could the minerals of the earth be whispering a story about God? And if heaven's foundations are adorned with stones, what is God showing us about the beauty he hides and then reveals? And what is he showing us about ourselves? And if the rainbow first symbolized his covenant with all creation, could these stones be a reflection of that promise in creation, covenant, and eternity? So, does the Bible even talk about rocks? I personally wondered this as a rock hound. I was like, man, I love carnelian and jasper and amethyst and agate. And so when I found out that these rocks were actually in the Bible, I was like, what? Like, what's the context? Why are they in the Bible? And so it made me go down kind of a rabbit trail of what gems are in the Bible. And there's a lot, actually, so we'll get into them now, but first, welcome to the channel. Usually we talk about the Bible, or art, or rocks. I love rocks. And so, anyway, let's get into the study. Gold is in the Bible. In Hebrew, it's zahab. In Greek, it's krishion. And the first mention of this is in the priestly ephod. And the last mention of it is the eternal city in Revelation. Gold shines as a consistent accompaniment to every stone. And gold threads were actually hammered and interwoven into the stones with the ephod and the shoulder, So it was a breastplate with an ephod and shoulder, I want to call them straps, but they're not straps. Anyway, this wasn't just craftsmanship. It reflected divine glory and brilliance. Gold appears in the walls and the foundations of the New Jerusalem. Lucy's freaking out. She thinks she's starving. So let's just read Revelation chapter 20, verse 1. And Revelation is actually the revelation of Jesus Christ. It's not the revelation of the Antichrist or anything, but verse 18, almost there. The construction of its walls was of jasper, and the city was pure gold, like clear glass. Can you imagine gold that's clear glass? Like, that just sounds beautiful. And we'll get into this a little bit more later, but I just wanted to read that. So, showing the continuity between Genesis and Revelation, gold kind of shows God's glory between earth and eternity. That's a beautiful thought. Secondly, there's the high priest and his breastplate. And this breastplate was a masterpiece of divine symbolism. Let me tell you, there was 12 stones. It was 4 rows of 3. Each stone represented a tribe of Israel. And these stones were all set in gold. And the first row was sardis, or ruby, or in Hebrew is odem. The second stone in the first row was topaz, or in Hebrew it's pedah. The third stone is emerald, or nophak in Hebrew. So the second row, the first one is carbuncle or garnet, and in Hebrew it's baraket. The second row, second stone is a sapphire, in Hebrew it's saphir or sapir. The third stone in the second row is a diamond, or in Hebrew it's yaholam. The third row The first stone is the jacinth, or in Hebrew it's lashem or lagur. It's a little debated. Some of these stones are debated because they were kind of just going with the terms of the day. And we'll talk a little later how these stones could be different stones or known as different stones today. But we're just going with what the Bible says for now. So third row, second stone is the agate, and in Hebrew it's shabu. And the amethyst in Hebrew is alama. And I'm not a Hebrew scholar, guys. I'm just reading what's on the internet here. You can do it yourself too. So I'm not like some special scholar. And yeah, I just want to say, if you don't see it in your Bible with your own eyes, then throw it out. Don't believe what I say just because I'm talking about the Bible. Like, go in the Bible and look at it for yourselves. And this is in this is in Ezekiel 28, the breastplate, if you want to go into that. So the fourth row is beryl. The first stone is beryl. In Hebrew it's Tarshish. The second stone in Hebrew is shuham. In English it's onyx. And the third stone, one of my favorites, is jasper. In Hebrew it's yashpheth or yashpheth. Like I said, you can look it up. So the shoulder stones, this is what I was talking about, because there's stones on the shoulders. There was onyx stones engraved with 6 tribes on each side, which is a cool thought. It kind of echoes when the tribes of Israel went up to the mountains on either side and were reciting the covenant in the book of Exodus. Also, the Urim and the Thummim, which we don't know a ton about theologically or biblically. There's a lot of tradition about what it was, but we don't actually know. We do know that the Bible talks about them. They were stored in the pocket of the breastplate, which was believed to be under the breastplate. This is Exodus 28, verse 30. And the Urim and Thummim could be translated as lights in perfection. They're possibly large stones, oftentimes used for casting, kind of like casting lots, or in today's terms it'd be like rolling dice, but these were like 8 to 10 sided dice with different Hebrew symbols and letters. A lot of times it was used for interpreting things or divine guidance, that sort of thing. Let's just look that up real quick. Exodus 28 verse 30. It's one of the only times that the Urim and the Thummim are actually mentioned in Scripture. And you shall put it in the breastplate of judgment, the Urim and the Thummim. Oh, I think I was saying it wrong. The Thummim, and they shall cover Aaron's heart when he shall go before the Lord. So it was in the breastplate. I guess it'd be right here. I always thought my heart was right here, but apparently it's here. Anyway, so Aaron shall bear the judgment of the children of Israel over his heart before the Lord continually. Just an interesting thought. But the whole ephod and breastplate and high priestly robes were very beautiful. A lot of gold, a lot of gems and minerals. And you can also see kind of a connection to the rainbow as you move across the rows of stones. You kind of trace a spectrum of colors that roughly mirrors the rainbow. There's deep reds, there's golden yellow tones, there's blue hues and green hues, purple hues. So the ephod kind of became a microcosm of God's covenantal promise to creation, with diversity, unity, and glory in every color. It's beautiful. So let's get into the biblical observation of these stones. Each stone carries its own history and biblical significance. The sardis, which was red, likely a carnelian. So some people think it was like a clear red, which would which would have been more of a gem quality rather than a mineral quality. So yeah, this sardis is mentioned in Exodus 28:17, Ezekiel 28:13, and Revelation 21:20. So it's mentioned in the high priestly breastplate, the king of Tyre's his breastplate, which was symbolically and prophetically tied to Satan. Some people tie it to Adam, but I'm more of the thought line that it's talking about Satan. And then in Revelation, we have it in the foundations of heaven, the carnelian or the sardis. Either way, whatever it is, it's going to be beautiful. I love it. Oh, and in the book of Enoch, it's really cool. Enoch says that a massive wall in heaven is made out of crystal. So I just think it's cool that even Enoch says, which it's not biblical. I'm not trying to say it's biblical. I'm just saying that it says Enoch was in heaven and that he saw a wall made of pure crystal. And I don't know if you've seen crystal. I could probably grab one real quick and show you, but it's so cool. Just imagine a wall made of this stuff. Okay, so I don't know how good you can see these. But there's big crystals, there's little crystals, but imagine a wall of crystals. And we're going to see it one day in heaven, I believe. I believe heaven's a real physical place, and we'll see it one day. So it's just amazing to me that we can see like a glimpse of heaven when we look at these stones. All right, so topaz is believed to be a yellowish green, a yellow or a greenish color. It would be extremely rare in the Exodus era times. And just imagine a big old chunk of it right on the breastplate. This is opal. The Bible doesn't specifically say that opal is in the New Jerusalem, but it does say every precious stone is there, so I just want to throw out that opal's probably going to be there. Emerald would be a shining or glistening blue or green hue, almost like if you've seen an emerald. I don't have an example because they're beautiful gemstone, but it's almost like a see-through green. It kind of has a spectrum of green to blue or a little of both. So yeah, that's emerald. It's very pretty. I'll try to add in some pictures or videos of this stuff if I have it, or I can find it online just as a representation. The carbuncle, the greenish yellow stone, I almost think it's like a banded onyx. I have some of that stuff. I can't think of any. I have some of that stuff. I can't think of any place I have it just to go grab. But the banded onyx does fit the description of carbuncle. Jacinth, which was kind of like a fire red to reddish brown translucent gem as well. And then there's other ones like agate, which are pretty well known. They're a common, at least in Oregon, they're common. There's a pretty wide spectrum: banded agate, like waterline agate, lots of agates. Okay, so there's amethyst. It's like the purpley kind of crystal stuff. And there's beryl. It's kind of like a bluish kind of hue. It's not translucent. It's kind of like a I would almost say like a blue jasper, if you know rocks. But it's not jasper at all. It's its own type of stone. It's just different than crystal, and it's different than agate. So, yeah. And then there's diamonds, and diamonds are a great analogy of God and us, and how he puts pressure and fire to form the diamond, and then somebody comes along and cuts the diamond and shapes it and polishes it, and then that diamond's pretty much unbreakable. But the process is rough. And a lot of times life can be rough. So, fun analogy. So all these stones appear in priestly service and in prophecy. And even in the book of Ezekiel, which we'll jump into next, the king of Tyre's adornment is with all these precious stones, which illustrate like beauty and craftsmanship, but also foreshadow Satan's fall. So let's jump into that real quick. Ezekiel 28, one of the Old Testament prophets, the major prophets. I'm just going to read through the text starting at verse 13, Ezekiel 28:13. You were in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone was your covering. The sardius, the topaz and diamond, beryl, onyx and jasper, sapphire, turquoise, I love turquoise, and emerald with gold. That sounds beautiful. And it sounds a lot like the breastplate we were just talking about in the book of Exodus. So again, almost a foreshadowing. And a lot of people say that Satan used to be like the heavens worship leader and got pride in his heart, and then rebelled against God and brought a third of the angels with him. There's a lot of tradition involved with that. It's not necessarily biblical, but there's some parts that are biblical. It's intermingled throughout there. But anyway, the workmanship of your timbers and pipes was created for you on the day you were created. You were the anointed cherub who covers. I established you, and you were on the holy mountain of God. You walked back and forth in the midst of fiery stones. You were perfect in your ways from the day you were created, till iniquity was found in you. By abundance of your trading, you became filled with violence within, and you sinned. Therefore I cast you out as a profane thing out of the mountain of God, and I destroyed you, O covering cherub, from the midst of the fiery stones. Your heart was lifted up because of your beauty, and you were corrupted for wisdom. You corrupted your wisdom for the sake of your splendor. And I cast you to the ground. I laid you before kings that they might gaze upon you. So that's 13 through 17. You can see where the stones are mentioned, and it's talking about, in context, the king of Tyre and a lamentation for him, but prophetically it's speaking about Satan's fall. So I want to jump over to the book of Revelation, where it talks about stones even more, and it begins in the throne room of heaven, where God, we'll just go there. This is Revelations 4. Verse 3, and it's talking about God. And he who sat there was like a jasper and a sardius stone in appearance, and a rainbow around the throne, an emerald in appearance like an emerald. So that's just a beautiful thought. Then we have the foundations of the New Jerusalem, adorned with every precious stone. So there's stones that are mentioned, and then right before it, in verse 11, chapter 21, verse 11, it says that there was every precious stone. Excuse me, that's verse 19. It says the foundations of the walls of the city were adorned with all kinds of precious stones. And then it goes on to list some of the precious stones, which is beautiful. I'm excited to see it. So let's list it out here. Starts in verse 18. The walls were like jasper, and the city was like a pure gold, clear as glass. The foundations of the wall of the city were adorned with all kinds of precious stones. Then it goes into the 12 foundations, which were jasper, sapphire, chalcedony, emerald, sardonyx, sardius, chrysolite, beryl, topaz, chrysoprase. The 11th is jacinth, and the 12th is amethyst. And then the 12 gates around the city were made of individual pearls, one pearl per gate. So can you imagine a massive gate made from pearl? Just a beautiful thought. The Bible says, the eye has not seen, nor has it entered into the heart of man what awaits those who love the Lord. So how is God refining your life? So how does the spectrum of colors across the biblical stones deepen your understanding of God and how He loves us? And in what ways can we reflect God's glory as living stones in a world that often chases superficial sparkle? In the book of, I think it's 2 Peter, let's see here, talks about us being living stones for Jesus. Let's just go there real quick. It's 1 Peter chapter 2, verses 4 and 5. It says, as you come to Him, the living stone, that's Jesus, rejected by humans, but chosen by God and precious to God, you also, like living stones, are being built into a spiritual house to be a holy priesthood, offering spiritual sacrifices acceptable to God. So I just think that's a really cool thing. It says Jesus is the cornerstone, alive and active, and believers are called to be like stones, being built together into God's house. So just a fun thought. Yeah, let me know what you think of the questions and gems and rocks and minerals in the Bible. Have you ever noticed them before? Are you a rock hound? What's your favorite rock? I'd say mine's probably opal, if you couldn't tell. Yeah, I got these Andamuka earrings custom made for me. A friend gave me this. It's Boulder opal. And then I bought this with my wife over on the coast. I believe that's Ethiopian opal. And then this is Oregon Fire opal that I dug a few years ago. So I like opal. Yeah, what's your favorite stone? What do you think of this teaching? Let me know if it helped you at all. I know a lot of people are into rocks and don't really have a biblical foundation about rocks, so that's kind of why I shared my heart with this. I hope it helped you see rocks in a more biblical way. So we'll talk to you next time. Bless you. Thanks for watching.